Thank you. Now, this is kind of a coaching role for me, and I don't like the way the room's spread out. If this was my team, which right now I'm going to assume that you are my team, that I would make you come all right down here and fill in all these chairs so I wouldn't have to kind of search you out all the time. But I'll let you get away with it. You deserve that right now. If I come a little more involved in this coaching role, I'll probably move you. But right now, for the first talk, I will let you be a long ways over there. With or without the mic, I could reach you. I can tell you that. I don't know if it's with my voice or with my arm, but I would be able to reach you. It's kind of interesting that I actually wrestled around 300 wrestling matches in my career. And it's pretty combative. You get in it and you get after it, and you can get some twists and some injuries. But I think I wrestled 270 straight matches before I actually ever missed one. And you probably don't even realize I missed a match just because it was actually after college, after high school. And it was actually, I was a world champion already in 1971, and it was actually in the spring of 1972 when I was training to make the Olympic team and actually, to be one of the favorites to win a gold medal. So what happened was I got injured the night before a match against a Russian duel it was actually going to be in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And so that was really the only match. I went on to wrestle another 30 matches, and of those 30 matches, didn't lose any and won the Olympic Games. But when I missed that one match, when the Russian who I had to wrestle went to the weigh-ins and I didn't show up, he started running down the hallway yelling, "No Gable, no Gable." He was pretty happy that he didn't have to wrestle me. You kind of develop a reputation, and my reputation was it wasn't just going to be a wrestling match. It was going to be a match whether you survived it all. And so I would get in their heads. And a lot of the matches that I won were actually won before I stepped on the mat, just with that reputation. And that's really kind of what's taken place today here. What's taken place is the Department of Aging and the Iowa insurance agencies are actually trying to develop more of a relationship to make sure that there's a trust involved, to make sure that there's people understand a little more, and so they can actually feel better about what's going on. To me, once we reach a certain age, they gave me a speaking point here. It says, tips on avoiding investment fraud and scams. They kind of pick on us a little bit. People do. You hear about this, you hear about that. For some reason, though, nobody's picked on me yet. And I'm looking for a good wrestling match. So I kind of welcome that kind of opportunity. But most people don't. Most people don't. And I'd probably get picked on, too. Because I remember back in high school when I wrestled, my high school coach would say, when somebody would walk in and they'd want to see this guy, "Where's this Gable guy that's never lost a wrestling match?" And the coach would always say, "Well, you just pick him out. You could probably pick him out." And I was usually the last guy they would pick out because they were always looking for some great big guy in there that just was unbelievably chiseled. And not that I didn't have some muscles, but I started in the lightest weight and actually ended up in a middle weight class, but just kind of kept growing, but stopped after a while, of course. But part of the reason why I do have a few injuries in my career is beyond just the fact that I reached out a little bit and became a little bit of a fanatic, and it's one of those things that you look back and you figure out why, and that's a whole speech in itself. But I used to actually have to wrestle, and there's some people in this room that might remember the guy from Iowa State that weighed 450 pounds named Chris Taylor, and he was their heavyweight. And he was a two-time NCAA champion. He was on the same Olympic team that I was on in '72. And actually, I was a graduate assistant when I was at Iowa State when he was there. But I was really the only guy in the wrestling room that could go with him and give him a go. And actually, so he picked on me quite a bit, and I picked on him. And it's probably one of the reasons why, sometimes I have to have a few surgeries just to correct a few old injuries that I had, and I'm sure Chris Taylor had something to do with that. Anytime you wrestle somebody that's 3 times bigger than you, because I weighed 150 and he weighed 450. And people ask me, how could you wrestle that guy? He was so huge. And, well, I said, you were mistaken. He weighed 450, but I didn't weigh 150. I said, I knew the sport so well that I had my weight, and you could add his weight on my weight, which means I'm 600 pounds, because I knew how to utilize that talent to make him carry all of his weight and my weight. So really, he was wrestling somebody that weighed 600, he weighed 450, and that's why I could wrestle him, and that's why I could actually go with him and beat him, and that's why that had to lug all that weight around. That's why I got a few injuries in my day. They actually used to call me like a bionic wrestler, because it looked like I could just go out and that this guy's not human. He's just going through these people like sliced, hot butter. He's just making them look bad, and he's winning all the time. Well, pretty soon I might really be the bionic man. And you know what? I have to give credit to science for that. And that's really important, because there's a lot of great things out there as you get older. That doesn't mean you want to jump into them. If you can keep your body parts, keep them. And but if all of a sudden you come to the point where it affects your attitude and affects your lifestyle, and you're in a lot of pain, you got to do some things. And with that in mind, I've had a few replacements, and have to have revisions once in a while. It's kind of like changing a tire. They go in and they just kind of change a part and make it stronger, make it better. Because you know what? When I coached or when I wrestled, they said during practice, no water, no water. It's good for discipline. They didn't even think about, well, maybe it's good for your health. But at that particular time, it was kind of like a sign of weakness if you drank water during a practice. And then all of a sudden, during the end of my career as a athlete, I found out that when I started drinking water during practice, that I got a much better practice in, and I learned a lot more during that time. But that's the nature of life. It's when you got injured, you went down, or you got back up, and you finished practice. Instead of like now, if you get injured, if you're a smart coach, you'll take your athlete and you'll start preparing them for the future right there. And that's probably some kind of recovery, like ice. The first time I ever got hurt, in fact, through my high school career and probably through maybe half of my college career, when you got hurt, they threw you in a hot tub, and it went about 110 degrees. And of course it didn't hurt anymore because you were boiling in there, and you were just trying to survive and keep your head above water.